We now know what UNM's new athletic director, Eddie Nunez, has planned to shore up budget and Title IX issues that have plagued the Lobos for over a decade. On Wednesday night, word surfaced that Mr. Nunez and UNM President Garnett Stokes are recommending the end of UNM men's soccer, along with women's beach volleyball and the men's and women's ski teams. There are other cutbacks proposed as well, including to scholarships. On Thursday morning, the Board of Regents and the public weighed in on the recommendations. You can watch the full Regents meeting on our Facebook page at NM in Focus. Now, the line panelists also gave their initial take there as well. We'll be following this story for sure. Now, earlier this week, we were able to sit down with A.D. Nunez to talk about the state of the department and what factors went into his decision, such as Title IX. Now, he wasn't talking about specific recommendations at the time of that taping, but he and correspondent Khalil Ekulona did get into a lot of the complicated details.
I'm here with UNM Athletic Director Eddie Nunez. Eddie, thank you very much for being with me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So tell me, why are having athletics in an athletic department, why is it important to the overall health of a school, university like UNM?
You know, I think for any university, and especially for University of New Mexico, it shows that camaraderie. It shows the back of house how good we do things. It could be the front. You know, a lot of people like to say it's the front porch to the university, and even if it's the front, the side, whatever porch you want to make it, we have an opportunity in athletics to be a brand ambassador to our institution. And you know, it's an opportunity and a challenge that we take very serious. So you know, I think there is that balance between athletics and academics, and you know, UNM does a great job doing so. We have some tremendous student athletes academically. So the importance of having athletics as a big part of the institution is critical, I think, for the success of both institution as well as athletics.
Now, speaking of that combination of success for institution and athletics, as we know, for 9 out of the past 11 years, we've been in a budget deficit.
Absolutely.
And it's not necessarily very healthy. You've been at the job less than 1 year. When you came into the job, did you understand that things were this bad?
You know, I have had that question asked many, many times. You know, I understood some of the complexities that existed. Of course, I had seen some of the items that were publicly known at the time, that we had some budget issues. We had some audits going on. Did I know the complexities of what we've had to deal with? No, and I don't think any athletic director coming into an institution knows fully that. But it's been good in some respects, because it's given me an opportunity to right size and do certain things within our department that we can address and take care of now, like the audits and all this. We've been able to go forward and already address every item in that audit, and working along with state auditors, with our own internal auditors. We want to make sure that we do everything we can to again put us in a position to be successful. So it's given me an opportunity in some respects to take the bull by the horn and say, you know what, let's get this ship right.
Yeah, you come into a situation that you inherit, and you you prescribe the corrective changes, so we can generally be healthy.
That was the emphasis. The emphasis when we started this process was we wanted to make sure, we want to look at all our sports, every one of them, and say, how can we do business differently and better? Can we reduce cost in all these sports some way, somehow? And that narrative changed throughout the process with Title IX and other things coming online. But throughout this whole process, I've wanted to make sure that I've articulated the concerns, or at least hear what every individual group, what our support groups for each individual team have had, or what questions they may have. And maybe I have not told them exactly what we're going to do purposely, because there's so many different opportunities that are available to be decided between. And as I've gone through all this, I wanted to make sure that first and foremost, our student athletes, our coaches, that they're respected, because I didn't want I've got a real concern to make sure that they were treated with the utmost respect during this process. I did not want things getting out there that we were doing X, Y, and Z, when the reality is I hadn't gotten to that point, or haven't been able to provide every opportunity possible before we got to that point.
The Mountain West average is 18 teams.
Right.
UNM has 22 teams. Now, there's talk out there possibly of cutting some teams. I understand the position you're in. You with Title IX, which we're about to get to pretty soon, it's going to be almost impossible to cut a women's program.
Right.
Yet it's going to be very difficult to cut the men's program. If a team is to see the chopping block and is to get cut, what would that process look like? How would you go to commit a public outreach? Because I'm sure there would be a lot of people very upset with any of the programs being cut, seeing that the non-major sports, the non-football and basketball sports, are the more successful programs academically and performance-wise for the university.
Again, that's a very, very tough discussion. When we moved forward with Title IX, there's many different opportunities that could be presented, not just cutting of sports or eliminating of sports. And I choose not to really use those words in a positive way, because as a former student athlete, as a former coach, I understand what this impact's going to do to those young men, young women, if we do decide to go in this direction. And as we've done this process, we've looked at every scenario possible, and from accomplishments athletically, accomplishments academically, community support, financial burdens on the institution, all the different factors that you can put on the table. And every one of those have positive and negatives to each one. And the one thing that I can take from the majority of my assessment is we do some great things athletically and academically. Every one of our teams has had accomplishments in both of those areas at one point or another in their careers or in their time. And that's what makes this challenge so difficult, because when the institution makes a decision, if it's through roster management, if it's through removal of scholarships, if it's eliminating a sport, as we're talking about, that's a strong message that we're sending, that unfortunately we've gotten to a point where housing a certain amount of teams might not be what's best interest for UNM. So we understand those averages. The Mountain West is 18, the national average is 19. We look at ourselves as a flagship institution. Well, what are other flagship institutions for their respective states what are they doing? How are their athletic departments developed? I mean, you look at the University of Texas and they got 20 programs, $200 million more than we do, in budget. Do you look at, so those are real facts. Those are real information. We might have too many sports, but that's part of this process, is making sure we do all this due diligence now before we have to come to that conclusion. So, and the process ultimately will be, getting insight from the coaches, letting them have an opportunity to speak to me asking certain questions of them. But as far as keeping them through every step of the way, it's very difficult, because just like anybody else, make it to know that you're having a conversation potentially that eliminating a sport might be part of that end result. I have to be respectful for them. I have to respect our student athletes, and I have to respect their families and everyone else that are involved here. So my approach to this has always been, I am going to do everything I can possibly do to see what we can do without having to cut a sport.
I understand that. It's a very difficult task that you're up to. Now, I want to ask you a question. I'm doing some research. I looked at Coach Bob Davies' contract, and it shows that he has a behavioral responsibility to adhere to within his contract, but not an academic one. Do other coaches, do other athletic head coaches have similar contracts, similar clauses in their contracts?
What I can tell you is every coach is different, and those contracts were in place prior to me. I can tell you that I will have a different perspective on our contracts. What that means is, and it's already started, I've looked at what is the wording. Again, looking at our peers. Everybody in the country is doing their contracts differently. Some people have different incentives, some people have different clauses, and we have to work with our institution, our legal group, to find out what we can do as an institution on not just the legality side of it, of clauses between academics and this, or more turpitudes or different things that are out there. The reality is we have to figure out, okay, what can we do? What is available at our state? And still keep in mind that what we, as myself, as the director of athletics, what am I doing to make sure I'm putting our athletic department in a position to continue to remain successful, remain right-sized. So part of the contract reviews that we're doing is looking at the language. Right now, again, I'm dealing with contracts that were in place, and a lot of it is just because that's how it's been done for years and years. It's not a negative. It's not a shot at the I mean, there's many schools doing that. It's because it was successful and it worked, and so you just keep going.
I understand your position, but wouldn't it be beneficial in a PR sense, and particularly thinking about the program in the future, to ensure that not only do when coaches come to direct student athletes and lead them, that's what we call them, student athletes.
Absolutely.
So wouldn't it be good not to just look out for their athletic success, but their academic success, and make that tied into the contract somehow? I mean,
no, well, again, I go back and maybe I should have articulated this a little better. Every coach is being reviewed on their academic progress on their sport. If there's any items, regardless of their contract or not, that is something we are always every day on top of, and we're making sure that every one of our student athletes is achieving the opportunity to be successful. You know, a lot of people perceive, and so to answer your question, yeah, that can be done, and that is something that we could look at to say that if our kids aren't achieving a certain amount, that we can have, again, whatever that ultimate decision is. But we have to understand, we have over a 3.2 GPA for all our student athletes. When we talk about football at a 2.5, when you look at the national average, that's actually pretty darn good. So now you compare that to one of our other sports have a 3.2, it's a lot different. You have a different number of student athletes you're dealing with.
different schedule and different times of practices and some of the demands.
So
I
you
understand.
have to compare apples to apples when you can.
Yeah. But in the future, will you ensure in the contracts that you sign new coaches with, will you ensure that there is an academic performance element in there that the coach must meet?
I'll ensure that I'm going to look at every opportunity to make sure that it's in the best interest of our institution. I'm not going to sit here right now and say that I'm going to do that. That there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that is part of, and that is working with the university's legal group, making sure that we're able to do some of the changes that we would want to make. But every coach will be held accountable academically, and I can attest to that. Just like I'm going to hold them accountable for many other things. Academically is going to be one of the main components in how I look at all our coaches and make sure that they're progressing our programs and they're helping our student athletes graduate and achieve life after UNM, because that's what's most important to me. It's not about, everybody, yes, you want to win and you want to lose, but you want to make sure that our student athletes are ready to head on to the real world, whatever they choose to do. And we put them in a position that they understand they could always represent UNM in the right direction.
Okay. And Title IX, we mentioned it before. Everybody in town, the state has been talking about it for a while. Now, Title IX, we understand that there's 100 more opportunities for men than there are for women athletes at UNM. Now, if the school does not get in compliance, what are the penalties that the school can face?
Well, everyone needs to understand Title IX is a federal mandate. And that's what it's not an institution, response. It's more than just the athletic department figuring out the numbers.
Yeah.
We have to provide that opportunity for all our student athletes, female and male. There's certain institutions that are opposite us, where they have to provide more male because they're so female heavy with enrollment numbers in perspective to the institution. So we are in a position like many institutions where we have more females at our institution, where we need to provide more opportunities as an athletic department for our females. And that's been the task right now with our review. Our finding was we had about 140 so more participants in the male side than we did in the female side. There's different ways you can obtain Title IX and compliance with Title IX, and that is through roster management, proportionality, and I'll start off with that one. That's the first test, proportionality, where you can do roster management, you can reduce scholarships, you can also deal directly with eliminating sports, men and female, because Title IX will tell you if you cannot support your female teams at a certain level, your responsibility is either you pick it up and you actually put it at the level of funding that it's necessary as per Title IX guidelines, or you reduce that sport. So it could be a female sport. So those are the complexities that exist within Title IX. There's other prongs associated with it. We wouldn't meet any of the other prongs currently. Could we find a way? Yeah, but it goes back to what we started in the beginning. We're kicking the can down the road because ultimately those other two prongs are adding more female sports. And already we have a number of sports that it's a high number. So when you look at this and you say, what are the consideration points? Well, the consideration points are, we have 22 sports already. Do we add another female sport? Our budget line is showing us we cannot support our student athletes at the level we all would like them to be supported as. So if we're not doing our part as a university to give them the support they need, and our coaches have done a tremendous job doing what they can to make up that differential, we have to, again, look at ourselves and say, is adding more sports, keeping 22 sports, that's part of the discussion that I've had internally with some of my staff members, with our consultants, saying, this is my challenge. Do we do this? Is it in the best interest of this institution? That's been part of the discussion. So, but it's not as easy as just saying, I'm going to find 145 participants, because yes, I can reduce our men down, but what people have to understand is I'm also going to have to infuse more or add more females, which again raises the cost.
I understand that, but do you see this as a possible, all these issues seem to be connected, and possibly with increasing booster activity, a public outreach message to introduce or enhance and support the female sports?
This is not solely driven behind finances. So again, if the question is, can we just push more money into it? That's not going to help, because we have a $2 million hole right now, a $1.9 million deficit that we're trying to find. So part of this will help supplement some of that. But the reality is, even if I decide to keep all the sports, the fact remains, I have to infuse this money in this hole, that we have to get it back just to even. And what people need to understand as well, and this is part of why I wanted to have this opportunity to sit with yourself and others, is our budgets have remained, for the most part, at a level for the last 5 or plus years. What's happened is inflation has continued to go up, and things from travel to insurances and everything else. So as food and everything else has increased, our budgets remain here. That differential between where we are right now and where our budgets are, our coaches have fundraised for that differential. So when we say, how are we fundraising, how are we supporting our kids, just to say we're going to keep everything as status quo is going to be a challenge. Is it possible? Sure, people could continue to do more, but it better be reoccurring money, because if it's just one time, we're going to be back here in a year from now or two. And that's what we cannot do. We cannot put our institution, our fans, and everybody else, our student athletes, in a position where we're going to say, hey, we're just going to move this can just for another year or two. So it's imperative that we do our due diligence now. And what does that mean? Well, this is a federal mandate. The next thing that happens, if you do not have a plan that's gonna address your findings or your issues, the potential is you're gonna have the Office of Civil Rights in here. Mm-hmm. And I know there's been numerous institutions that I know firsthand that have had the OCR come in here, the Office of Civil Rights come into their institution and do a comprehensive review. And that again goes back to, are we doing our due diligence now, instead of allowing a federal group to come in and say, okay, now you have to do it a certain way.
And identify problems and put
which
strict
can
mandates
possibly
on
even
it.
cost us even more in the long run.
Yeah.
So those are things that right now are having to be discussed as part of this process.
I want to thank you for being here with me today. And briefly, I'm going to let you go. It's been a long time. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
5 years, where's the UNM athletic program?
If I have an opportunity from an athletic director to lead UNM until those next 5 years, my hope is that we've done everything we can right now to put ourselves in a position where we're successful, where we've managed and we've showcased our opportunity to be fiscally responsible all the way through, but we've also put our student athletes in a position, and whatever sports we have, if at the time it means we're having 20 sports or 21 or 22, whatever that number is, that those sports are going to have a chance to be successful. They're going to have every chance to not just be participants. I don't want participants, and I don't think any of our fans want just teams that will be participants. We want a chance to be successful. We want to be able to compete for championships, but we have to do it with the mindset that we're doing everything right. We're representing this institution, this state, this wonderful state that I'm privileged to be a part of. If we can accomplish those goals, UNM will be in a position to truly be successful for the future.